So in this video I want to remove the cab off the frame. I think I have everything disconnected. However, I'm going to be watching as the cab starts to go up. I'll watch to see if there's anything that I've missed. And I want to create 4 lift points. So hood hinge areas. So that's 2. And then in the back here, I was just kind of looking at the back of the cab and how am I going to do that without damaging the sheet metal. And there's a little hole right here, and I don't think I want to use that. And plus it's kind of, looks like it's a little flimsy there. See, I can actually bend it here. And then here is a reinforced area, some extra piece spot welded in. And I'm thinking I'm going to put a hook right here. So the hood hinges, I don't want to damage these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where the hinges are now so that I can put them back in the same place. And then I'm going to replace these good hinges with some damaged hinges so that I can save these. I don't want to possibly damage them. So this is the truck where the damaged hinges are going to come from. And this one was driving and the hood flipped up. So, and even here I'm going to mark the hinges where they are now. Three bolts hold these hinges on, and you can see there's quite a bit of adjustment. You see the slots. So with the marks, then if these hinges are ever replaced with some decent ones, then at least there's a good reference here to get it back into shape where it was before. Dodge already had the hinges bolted in place when they painted these cabs, so I wouldn't have had to mark the locations of the hinges, but hey, I learned something new again. So here's a quick list of some things that I've disconnected. So the AC lines from the compressor, and also disconnected the transmission cooler lines, and so like vacuum hoses and stuff like that, and the injector, like the wiring and stuff. I'm trying to disconnect everything off of the engine. And so here's a throttle linkage that had to come off, and the wires for the starter cables had to come off. And so let's see, yeah, of course I've got the radiator out, and let's see, what else was there? There's brake lines. Got the brake lines off, and the steering shaft is off now. There's 2 wire connectors that are down. They're kind of like underneath the cab, kind of like in there somewhere. Oh, here they are, hanging here. So disconnected those, and the transmission linkage, got that disconnected. And also in the cab here, I've got the shift boot all pulled apart there, so that transfer case handle, that shifter can go through the floor nice. I got to keep an eye on that too as that cab starts to lift. And oh yeah, the emergency brake cable here, that was a bit of a challenge. It was pretty rusty, so I worked at it for a while, and then now I've got it. It's working a lot better now. So that's the basic rundown. So here's a connector here. So we'll see, like there may be some stuff that I gotta take apart yet. And of course the cab mount bolts, so there's 6 of those. Those are all off. And so I'm gonna start doing some lifting. There may be some stuff that I forgot to tell you that I disconnected, but that's a pretty good start. Basically anything that's attached to the cab and the frame, that's got to be separated. Okay, so I'm going to start doing some lifting here, guys, see what happens. So I've already started to lift just a little bit at that back corner of the cab with a come along. So it seems to be working, and same thing at this corner, also have a come along there. So that's 2 lift points. And then, so here's one of those bent hood hinges, and a chain coming up, and it joins together with the other chain, which goes to that side. the other hood hinge, and I've got that 2x4 kind of separating the two hood hinges because they're going to want to kind of like collapse together as the load comes on. So central lift point here for the hood hinge mounts, but there is a corner lift and a corner lift, so it's kind of like a triangulated lift, and that should help keep the cab from wanting to tip over. So the cab is actually hanging now, and so the come along mount does not seem to be damaging the cab here, and so you can see that the cab is actually suspended now, so I can rock the cab around. So now that it's all up a little higher, I'll just crawl around under the truck a little bit and looking for more stuff that may need to be disconnected. Okay, so the cab is sitting quite a bit higher now. And so to separate the cab from the frame, I found a few more plugs that I had to disconnect off this harness. And so check this out. There's a ground wire that's bolted to the back of the cylinder head, and there's also one on the other cylinder head. Imagine how hard that would be to unbolt that when the cab is sitting down all the way where it normally sits. So you can see the distance from here to here, that's how high the cab has now been lifted. So I got to unbolt that there, and then I'll continue lifting. So the right side ground, I'm just going to take it off of the firewall up top here. It was kind of strange because, okay, check this out. So I thought this truck was all metric. So here's a 10mm. It's too loose. And here's a 9mm. It doesn't fit. What's going on? So I went and I got myself a 3/8. Ah, nice fit. Okay, so the truck is not completely metric. Okay, so I was just going around looking for anything that's tight, has tension on it, something that's not disconnected. And I think it's looking pretty good, actually. This here is all part of that's all attached to the body. Oh, I found something here. Part of the wiring harness right here, look at that. This one's got some tension on it. I can maybe just snip that off right here. Oh, and another one. More here. Oh. So I got this wire here is tight. So I went underneath there and I disconnected the block heater. I found that. That's it over here. See, and it's tied to the body, this inner fender. So that had to be separated from the engine. And I also found that this harness here, which is disconnected, is probably going to get tangled up in amongst that fuel rail there. So I'm going to have to slide this harness back out from underneath that fuel rail. Make sure that's free. And then I think what is this here? What is that? Maybe it's some ground or something. Okay, so yeah, I'll just move this harness back out of the way. Then I want to do some more lifting and see what happens. What else? That's loose. Brake lines were off. Okay, so then what does it look like in the cab with that shifter? Oh, that's already cleared. Okay, so that's out. And in the back here, I don't think I have anything that's going to be in the way. So on the back of the cab here, I haven't noticed any distortion where the hook was putting load. So that turned out okay. I think the cab is high enough now for that chassis to be able to roll out from underneath it. So there's still quite a bit of stuff up on the firewall and on the inner fenders and stuff. Let's have a quick look here. So I think basically everything gets stripped off the firewall and the inner fenders, and even the air conditioning parts. It all gets changed over for that 12 valve Cummins. I think even the brake booster assembly, I think that gets changed over for the Cummins. I'll research that a little bit, but I'll be using that battery tray. I think basically I use the battery tray, you know, and otherwise the wiring harness gets changed over for the 12 valve Cummins. So I'll learn a little bit as I go along here. I don't need these harnesses. Alright, so now I want to see if I can get this chassis out of here and set the cab down on a trailer.